Marcus Chen had always been the type of person who blended into backgrounds. On the massive interstellar research vessel, Harmony's Edge, he worked as a maintenance technician, quietly fixing broken systems and updating software protocols. His colleagues barely noticed him during their 12-hour shifts, and he preferred it that way. While others gathered in the recreation halls to boast about their previous assignments or complain about the monotonous deep space journey, Marcus would retreat to his small quarters with a cup of synthetic coffee and an old paperback novel. The ship carried a crew of 800 souls from 17 different species, all part of the Galactic Cooperation Initiative. Humans were still the newest members of this cosmic alliance, having joined only 50 years ago after making first contact with the Zilithian Empire. Most species viewed humans as useful but unremarkable, good at following orders, decent with technology, but lacking the natural advantages that made other races valuable. The Zilithians had incredible telepathic abilities. The Krillians possessed natural armor and superhuman strength. The Vorthak could manipulate electromagnetic fields with their minds. Humans, they were just humans. Average lifespan, average intelligence, average everything. They filled the gaps in crews where other species were too expensive or specialized for mundane tasks. Captain Zeltar, a towering Zilithian with silver skin and 6 arms, rarely spoke directly to human crew members. When he did address them, it was through the human liaison officer, Commander Sarah Rodriguez. Even she seemed embarrassed by the arrangement, but protocol was protocol. In the rigid hierarchy of galactic civilization, humans occupied the bottom rungs. Marcus understood his place perfectly. He fixed air recycling units when they malfunctioned. He updated navigation computers when new star charts arrived. He replaced worn components in the artificial gravity generators. Important work, but invisible work. Work that kept him safely in the shadows where he belonged. The Harmony's Edge was 3 months into a routine scientific survey mission in the Kepler sector when everything changed. They had been cataloging potentially habitable worlds for future colonization projects, a peaceful endeavor that involved scanning planets from orbit and taking atmospheric readings. The crew expected nothing more dangerous than solar radiation and the occasional asteroid field. Then the Devourers arrived. The first indication of trouble came during the night shift, when Marcus was replacing a faulty power coupling on Deck 7. The ship's emergency klaxons began wailing, their piercing sound echoing through the corridors like the screams of dying worlds. Red warning lights bathed everything in an ominous crimson glow. Marcus felt his blood turn to ice. Every species in the galaxy knew about the Devourers, though most considered them more myth than reality. Ancient stories spoke of mechanical beings that consumed entire civilizations, converting organic matter into fuel for their endless expansion across the universe. They were supposed to be legends, cautionary tales told to children about the dangers of venturing too far into unexplored space. Through the ship's communication system, Captain Zeltar's translated voice carried barely controlled panic. 3 massive Devourer ships had emerged from hyperspace, each one the size of a small moon. Their dark hulls absorbed light like hungry voids, and strange geometric patterns pulsed along their surfaces with malevolent energy. Long-range sensors detected smaller craft launching from the behemoths, swarms of fighters heading directly toward the research vessel. The crew erupted into chaos. Zilithian officers barked orders in their native tongue while trying to coordinate with the ship's AI. Krillian security forces rushed to defensive positions they had never expected to use. Vorthak engineers frantically attempted to boost the ship's shields and weapon systems. Everyone had a role to play in this desperate situation. Everyone except the humans. Commander Rodriguez received orders to keep all human personnel in designated safe areas until the crisis passed. They were told to remain calm and avoid interfering with critical operations. In other words, stay out of the way while the superior species handled the real work. Marcus felt the familiar sting of dismissal, but something else stirred within him as well. something cold and calculating that had been dormant for years. He made his way through the panicked corridors toward an emergency access panel, his maintenance credentials allowing him to bypass security locks that would stop other crew members. The ship shuddered as the first Devourer fighters reached weapons range. Energy beams scorched the hull, and several sections lost atmosphere before emergency barriers could deploy. The Harmony's Edge had defensive capabilities, but nothing designed to handle an assault of this magnitude. As Marcus reached his destination, he paused and closed his eyes. Time to remember who he really was. The access panel opened to reveal a hidden compartment that Marcus had installed months ago during routine maintenance. Inside lay equipment that no simple technician should possess: military-grade communication devices, encrypted data storage units, and a small but sophisticated weapons cache. His fingers moved with practiced efficiency as he activated systems that had remained dormant since he boarded the ship. Marcus Chen was not just a maintenance worker. He was Agent Reaper, one of the most feared operatives in human space. The title Reaper was not given lightly in the Terran Defense Corps. It belonged to individuals who had proven themselves capable of eliminating threats that conventional forces could not handle. Marcus had earned his designation during the border wars against the hegemony pirates, where he single-handedly infiltrated and destroyed 3 enemy battle stations. His methods were precise, deadly, and left no witnesses. But that was a lifetime ago. After the wars ended, Marcus had accepted deep cover assignment aboard alien vessels, gathering intelligence about potential threats to humanity. His superiors believed that being underestimated was humanity's greatest strategic advantage. While other species dismissed humans as harmless laborers, agents like Marcus moved freely through galactic society, watching and waiting. He had hoped never to use his lethal skills again. The quiet life of a technician had appealed to him after years of violence and death. Yet as the ship shook under another barrage from Devourer fighters, Marcus realized that his past had finally caught up with him. The encrypted communicator crackled to life, connecting him to a secure network he had not accessed in over a year. The voice that responded belonged to Director Elena Vasquez, his former handler at TDC Command. "Reaper, we've been monitoring the situation. The research vessel has approximately 18 minutes before the Devourer main ships arrive within boarding range. Once that happens, everyone aboard will be converted into biological fuel." Marcus spoke quietly into the device, his voice carrying none of the hesitation that his colleagues associated with him. "What are my orders?" "The alien crew doesn't know about human combat capabilities. They've written off your entire species as non-combatants. Use that advantage. We're uploading tactical data about Devourer weaknesses to your location now." Information flooded Marcus's handheld display. The Devourers were indeed ancient mechanical beings, but they had specific vulnerabilities that only humans had discovered. Their neural networks operated on frequencies that human technology could disrupt. Their armor plating had microscopic gaps that human-designed weapons could exploit. Most importantly, they had never encountered human tactical thinking. Other species in the galaxy fought according to established patterns. Zilithians relied on telepathic coordination. Krillians used brute force and heavy armor. Vorthax employed electromagnetic manipulation. Each race had evolved along predictable lines, making their combat strategies easy for the Devourers to analyze and counter. Humans were different. They adapted, improvised, and used their environment in ways that confounded both allies and enemies. The Devourers' ancient programming had no protocols for dealing with human creativity and ruthlessness. "Understood," Marcus replied. "I'll need access to the ship's main computer core." "Negative. Too much risk of exposure. Your cover identity must be maintained until the critical moment. Use your existing access to cause maximum disruption without revealing your true nature." The connection terminated, leaving Marcus alone with his thoughts and his weapons. Around him, the ship continued to shake, as Devourer fighters pressed their attack. Emergency announcements echoed through the corridors in multiple languages, but the message was always the same: prepare for the worst. Marcus sealed the hidden compartment and resumed his role as a frightened maintenance worker. He made his way toward the engineering section, where panicked Vorthak technicians were struggling to reroute power to the ship's failing shields. They barely glanced at him as he approached their workstation. "Sir, I noticed some anomalies in the power distribution network," he said to the lead engineer, using the deferential tone that aliens expected from humans. "Maybe I could help stabilize the output?" The Vorthak engineer, his blue skin crackling with electromagnetic discharge from stress, waved Marcus toward a secondary control panel. "Fix whatever you can, human. We need every available system online." Marcus began typing rapidly, ostensibly running diagnostic programs. In reality, he was accessing the ship's defensive systems and uploading specialized code that would give him remote control over critical functions. His modifications were subtle enough to avoid detection, but comprehensive enough to be devastatingly effective when activated. While he worked, he listened to the tactical chatter from the bridge. The situation was deteriorating rapidly. The Devourer fighters had destroyed 2 of the ship's 3 main shield generators, and boarding torpedoes were now being loaded into their launch tubes. Captain Zeltar was preparing to surrender in hopes of negotiating for the crew's lives. The captain didn't understand that the Devourers never negotiated. They consumed everything organic and converted it into fuel for their endless expansion across the galaxy. In approximately 15 minutes, everyone aboard the Harmony's Edge would be dead unless Marcus acted. He finished uploading his control programs and stepped away from the console. The Vorthak engineer was too focused on his failing systems to notice that several new processes were now running in the background of the ship's computer network. Marcus had spent months learning every detail of the vessel's design and capabilities. He knew exactly where its weapons were stored, how its engines functioned, and what modifications could be made to turn a peaceful research ship into something far more dangerous. The aliens around him had no idea that they were about to witness what happened when humanity decided to stop hiding its true nature. The boarding torpedoes struck the hull with tremendous force, punching through armor plating and embedding themselves deep within the ship's structure. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut as atmosphere vented into space, but the damage was already done. Within moments, the torpedoes began cutting through internal barriers with focused energy beams, creating entry points for the mechanical horrors within. Marcus felt the vibrations through the deck plating as the first Devourer combat units began moving through the ship's corridors. These weren't the massive city-sized vessels that hung in space like mechanical Death Stars, but their smaller cousins were equally terrifying. Each unit stood 3 meters tall with multiple arms ending in weapons or cutting tools. Their armor reflected no light, seeming to absorb photons like miniature black holes. Through the ship's internal sensors, Captain Zeltar watched in horror as his security forces engaged the invaders. Krillian warriors, renowned throughout the galaxy for their combat prowess, were torn apart by the Devourers' superior technology and ruthless efficiency. Zilithian telepaths found their mental abilities useless against mechanical minds that operated on frequencies beyond biological comprehension. "All crew members retreat to emergency shelters," the captain ordered, his translated voice carrying the weight of desperation. "Prepare for evacuation procedures." But Marcus knew there would be no evacuation. The Devourer ships had positioned themselves to prevent any escape pods from reaching safe distances. This was a harvest operation, designed to capture and process every living being aboard the research vessel. He made his way through evacuating corridors toward a maintenance shaft that provided access to the ship's primary computer core. Other humans hurried past him, following the orders to seek shelter, but Marcus had different plans. His hidden equipment had given him real-time tracking data on the Devourer units, and he knew exactly where they were concentrating their forces. The invaders were methodically working their way toward the bridge and engineering sections, following predictable patterns based on ship schematics they had somehow acquired. They expected resistance from the crew's natural defensive positions and had planned their assault accordingly. They had not planned for someone who understood both their technology and their tactical limitations. Marcus reached the computer core chamber just as the first Devourer unit breached the engineering section 2 decks below. He connected his specialized equipment directly to the ship's central processing unit and began uploading programs that would have been impossible to install through normal channels. The modifications he implemented were based on classified research that humanity had conducted in secret for decades. While the galaxy's major powers had focused on improving their natural abilities, humans had quietly studied every species and technology they encountered. They had learned to mimic Zilithian telepathy through sophisticated neural networks, replicate Krillian strength with powered exoskeletons, and match Vorthak electromagnetic manipulation using advanced engineering. But more importantly, they had learned to think like their enemies. The ship's defensive systems came online in ways their original designers never intended. Manufacturing equipment that normally produced replacement parts began assembling weapons and armor using templates that Marcus uploaded from his encrypted storage. Environmental controls were reprogrammed to create atmospheric conditions that would damage Devourer sensors while remaining breathable for the organic crew. Most significantly, Marcus activated a hidden weapons array that had been built into the research vessel during its construction. The Galactic Cooperation Initiative believed they had purchased a peaceful scientific ship from human manufacturers. They didn't know that every vessel sold by humanity contained concealed military capabilities that could be activated when necessary. The first Devourer unit to enter the engineering section found itself facing opposition it had never encountered before. Automated defense turrets emerged from hidden compartments and began firing projectiles designed specifically to penetrate Devourer armor. The weapons used human-engineered ammunition that exploited microscopic weaknesses in the invaders' protective plating. More importantly, the weapons fired in patterns that confused Devourer tactical algorithms. Instead of following the predictable strategies used by other galactic species, the defense systems employed human military doctrine, asymmetric warfare, adaptive targeting, and psychological manipulation techniques that worked even on mechanical minds. The Devourer unit attempted to retreat and report this unexpected resistance, but Marcus had anticipated that response. He triggered electromagnetic pulse devices that disrupted their communication networks while simultaneously jamming their navigation systems. The invaders found themselves isolated in a ship that was actively hunting them. Captain Zeltar watched in amazement as his tactical displays showed Devourer forces being systematically eliminated by defenses he didn't know existed. His security chief, a veteran Krillian warrior named Throck, stared at the readouts in disbelief. "Captain, the ship is defending itself. I'm reading weapon signatures that aren't in our technical specifications." "How is that possible?" Before anyone could answer, Marcus's voice came through the bridge communication system. But this wasn't the hesitant, deferential tone they associated with the quiet human technician. This voice carried authority and deadly competence. "Captain Zeltar, this is Agent Reaper. I'm assuming tactical command of this vessel. All crew members are to remain in secure positions while I deal with our unwanted guests." The bridge fell silent. Even the ship's AI seemed to pause its operations. The transformation was so complete that several officers wondered if they were experiencing some kind of shared hallucination. "Who is Agent Reaper?" the captain finally asked. Marcus appeared on the main view screen, but he looked nothing like the maintenance worker they knew. His posture was different, straight and confident rather than hunched and apologetic. His eyes held the cold calculation of someone who had killed before and would kill again without hesitation. "I'm the person who's going to save all of your lives," he replied. "But first, I need you to understand something about humanity that your species have never bothered to learn." Marcus moved through the ship's corridors with lethal purpose. No longer the invisible maintenance worker, but a predator hunting in his natural environment. His equipment had been carefully chosen for this type of operation. Weapons that could penetrate devourer armor, sensors that could track their unique energy signatures, and tactical devices that disrupted their mechanical coordination. The aliens he passed stared in shock at this transformed human. Gone was the deferential posture and hesitant speech. Marcus moved with the fluid precision of someone who had turned violence into an art form. When he encountered crew members, he gave them clear, confident orders that they found themselves following without question. Vorthak Engineering Team, I need you to reroute power from non-essential systems to the concealed weapons grid. The access codes are being transmitted to your stations now. Krillian security forces establish defensive positions at these coordinates. You'll be backing up automated systems that are currently engaging the invaders. Zilithian bridge crew, prepare to interface with tactical programs I'm uploading to your telepathic networks. You're about to see how humans actually fight. The Devourers had expected to face the same resistance patterns they had encountered for millennia. Zilithians would try to overwhelm them with coordinated telepathic attacks. Krillians would charge directly at them with superior strength and armor. Vorthaks would attempt to disable their systems using electromagnetic manipulation. Instead, they found themselves trapped in a maze of adaptive defenses that learned from their movements and countered their tactics in real time. The ship's environmental systems created pockets of corrosive atmosphere that weakened their armor. Gravity generators were modified to create crushing forces in specific corridors while leaving others at normal levels. Most disturbing to the mechanical invaders was the unpredictability of human warfare. Their programming could analyze and counter known strategies, but Marcus employed techniques that had never been used against them before. He used the ship's own structure as a weapon, collapsing sections to crush devourer units, or flooding areas with superheated coolant from the reactor systems. On the bridge, Captain Zeltar watched tactical displays that showed something impossible. A single human was systematically destroying an entire devourer assault force. The boarding parties that had torn through his best warriors were being eliminated one by methods that defied conventional military thinking. "How is this possible?" he asked Commander Rodriguez, who looked as stunned as everyone else. "Sir, I think we've been seriously misunderstanding humanity's capabilities," she replied. "Agent Reaper isn't just any human. He's something we've never seen before." Through the ship's internal cameras, they watched Marcus confront a group of Devourer units in the main cargo bay. Instead of engaging them directly, he had rigged the chamber with a complex trap that used artificial gravity, electromagnetic fields, and precisely timed explosions to tear the mechanical beings apart. But the most terrifying aspect wasn't his tactical skill, it was his complete emotional detachment from the violence. Marcus killed the Devourers with the same calm efficiency he had once shown while repairing broken machinery. To him, they were simply malfunctioning systems that needed to be permanently shut down. The largest Devourer combat unit, a command variant with enhanced armor and weaponry, cornered Marcus in Engineering Section C. The mechanical being towered over him, its multiple weapon arms charging with energy that could vaporize organic tissue in seconds. Marcus smiled. "You know what your problem is?" he said conversationally, as if discussing the weather rather than facing imminent death. "You've been fighting the same enemies for so long that you've forgotten how to adapt." The Devourer fired, but Marcus was no longer where he had been standing. He had anticipated the attack and used the ship's modified gravity systems to pull himself to safety while simultaneously triggering a trap he had prepared hours earlier. The engineering section erupted in carefully controlled explosions that channeled their force directly at the Devourer's weak points. The mechanical being's armor cracked under the assault, exposing internal systems to a follow-up attack using weapons designed specifically to exploit those vulnerabilities. As the command unit collapsed in a shower of sparks and molten metal, Marcus activated his communicator to contact the Devourer ships waiting outside. "This is Agent Reaper aboard the research vessel Harmony's Edge. Your boarding parties have been eliminated. You have 30 seconds to withdraw to a safe distance before I demonstrate what this ship's real weapons can do." The response came in a mechanical voice that carried no emotion. "Unknown entity. This vessel contains no weapons capable of threatening Devourer ships. Prepare for secondary assault." Marcus's smile widened. "You really haven't been paying attention to humanity, have you?" He triggered the final phase of his preparations, activating systems that transformed the peaceful research vessel into something unprecedented in galactic warfare. The ship's sensor arrays became targeting systems. Its communication equipment generated electromagnetic pulses that disrupted Devourer navigation. Most importantly, its scientific laboratories began producing weapons that existed nowhere else in known space. The alien crew watched in awe as their ship's true nature was revealed. They had been traveling aboard one of humanity's most sophisticated intelligence-gathering and combat vessels, disguised as a simple research platform. Every system had been designed with dual purposes. Every component could be rapidly converted from peaceful to military applications. When Marcus fired the concealed weapons at the Devourer ships, the effect was devastating. The massive mechanical vessels, which had seemed invincible moments before, began showing signs of critical damage. Their armor, designed to withstand conventional alien weapons, proved vulnerable to human engineering and tactical thinking. But Marcus wasn't finished. As the Devourer ships attempted to retreat, he activated a final surprise, a hidden hyperspace disruptor that prevented them from escaping. They were trapped in normal space with a vessel they had fatally underestimated. "This is Agent Reaper to all Devourer vessels," Marcus broadcast on open frequencies. "You have encountered humanity's true capabilities. Return this information to your collective consciousness. Humans are no longer prey. We are predators, and we have been watching you for a very long time." The surviving Devourer ship sent a final transmission before Marcus's weapons finished it. "Data archived. Humanity reclassified. Threat level, extreme." In the aftermath, as the alien crew tried to process what they had witnessed, Marcus quietly returned to his role as a maintenance technician. But the transformation couldn't be undone. Everyone aboard now understood that humanity had been hiding something far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. The quiet man they had overlooked was the galaxy's newest apex predator, and he had been among them all along, watching, waiting, and preparing for the day when his true nature would be revealed. The age of underestimating humanity was over, and the universe would never be the same.